Here we go. 4RXLA says Pete Carroll was cast off by the NFL and nobody else wouldn't hire him. Raiders are in such a disarray. Nobody wants to coach them. I think this is a good fit for both sides.
It's interesting because Pete at the press briefing yesterday made the comment that being away from it for a year allowed him to recharge his batteries because it just, that job just wears you out. But it also allowed him to step back and look at perspective of what he wanted, what's the most important aspect of coaching. He's such a positive guy, and John and I talked about it. You know, Pete is 73, going on 53 in terms of intelligence with the energy of somebody who's 33. I've been around a lot of coaches, some really good ones and some real jackasses. This is one of the most unique, positive people. I've never seen anybody with the kind of energy that he has every day of the year. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, he's a special guy. I agree. It's funny, like the Raiders are in such disarray. Nobody wants to coach them. They got a hell of a coach in Pete Carroll, so I'd say someone does. But the team that doesn't seem like anyone wanted to coach them were the Cowboys. And maybe is that how they ended up with Schottenheimer?
But he never interviewed, Jerry Jones never interviewed very many people. I would think, for the Dallas Cowboys with a star, we'll make a phone call, you'll be in here and you'll interview because we're the Dallas Cowboys. They didn't do that. They hardly interviewed anybody. Jerry Jones just totally took over the press conference. It wasn't about Brian Schottenheimer. He talked about his dad for about 30 seconds. Marty should be in the Hall of Fame. He talked about what he learned from other coaches, what he experienced with Pete Carroll up in Seattle. But the press conference was about Jerry's ideology, Jerry's philosophy, Jerry's wishes, Jerry's wants, Jerry's needs, Jerry's assertions about the roster. It was about Jerry Jones. It wasn't about Brian Schottenheimer's weird.
It's Jerry's world, baby.
That's right. Aren't you lucky you're in it?
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Matthew. I want to say thank you very much for the $4.99 donation. Matthew says, both Shield and Brothers shouldn't run the Padres. I never bought the narrative that she'd magically have money to spend. From where? Aren't the Pods paying loans?
Well, Padres ownership made cash calls to bump up what was being done by Peter Seidler and A.J. Preller. I think there was some hidden griping about the extent of the... No, it wasn't hidden griping. It's one of the reasons I think Ron Fowler stepped aside. Ron was the point person. He just did not like the methodology of the contracts that were given out, the contracts they were eating, the continued transactions that they were making, the signing bonuses they were extending. He just stepped away from operation of the Padres. But it was Peter's team, and it's Peter's money or Seidler Equity Investments money, etc. She's not qualified. Period, exclamation point, end of discussion. She signed a document that she would not be the point person if Peter passed on. Now, she may not like Matthew, Bob, John, or Tom Seidler, the four remaining brothers, and maybe there's some validity there. But what Matt Seidler posted last night in the response to the lawsuit about the fact they've transferred all this money from the estate, from the trust already to Shield Seidler, and she wants more and more. She wanted $20 million a year annual salary. She's not qualified to be the point person. It's really messy. I don't know how they get through this. I don't think this lawsuit is ever going to court because baseball has a bylaw that ownership disputes wind up, quote, in arbitration. It's probably going to wind up in arbitration, whether there'll be a settlement or not. But it's not good. It's not a good look for the Padres. And it's diffused enthusiasm, I think, about where the Padres are as a franchise right now because they've not been able to conduct any business. A.J. Preller just signed another relief pitcher today, another minor leaguer. He signed 16 minor league street free agents. Not one of them has done anything at the major league level ever. And those are the offseason acquisitions. And the only two veteran players they got were an outfielder that's been released by 5 teams who hit 103 last year, and a catcher, Martin Maldonado, who hit 119 last year and kept getting released. That's it. That's your offseason of acquisitions from the guy that used to be the hot lava general manager.
Hot lava general manager. This just smells like a gold digger thing to me. And I hate to say that because she always seemed like a nice person and she was Pete Seidler's confidant. But now I'm going to say something that I'm telling you, I don't know this for sure. I can't remember if I read it or misread it. So please correct me if you know the info. But apparently Shield Seidler commented that Peter intended for Shield and Shield's daughter to run the team. And I'm assuming that's Shield's daughter from another relationship, not necessarily Peter's daughter. And if that's true, I can't imagine Peter Seidler wanting to leave control of the team, not along bloodlines.
The fact there's all kinds of signed documents that she would not become the point person makes any other comment carry no validity. Now, she may think something, and she may say that Peter wanted eventually the older daughter to run the franchise to keep it in the family, but we don't know what was said behind closed doors and was never included in any of the documents that have been presented in the course of the lawsuit. So I think this thing winds up in arbitration, and to me, it's sad, though, because I thought, that, as I told you, John, this morning, is this really what Peter Seidler wanted it to end this way? I mean,
no.
he must not be real happy where he is right now, viewing what has befallen the franchise he invested so much emotionally and financially into. It's just not a good situation. And now there's a report out there that within 2 weeks, MLB is going to approve John Seidler to become the point person, despite the lawsuit and what's going on, because John Seidler was appointed to be the point person by the trust, and the trust has control of the franchise, and the three brothers run the trust.
Yeah, it's just like a heavy dose of reality. You know, we're like going back to small market Padres, low markets team. We just lived in a fantasy when Peter Seidler was pulling money out of his pocket to fund this thing, and now our expectations are raised, unrealistically high. It's just what a freaking disaster this whole thing's turning into.
Well, AJ's still got room to create something. I defended him on TV on KUSI again. Does he have magic left? Yeah, he's got Dylan Cease as trade bait, or he's got Luis Arise, or now, unfortunately, maybe they're taking offers on Michael King. So maybe he'll make a trade that'll fill some roster spots and give him some salary cap relief. But in the bigger picture, the ownership structure up top does not look good right now. Okay, let's move on.
Moving on. Okay, let's go here to Callan. Afternoon, gents. Glad you're both safe and healthy. Sometimes life means more than sports. Saw, who would you vote for the Hart Trophy this season? Feel like McDavid is a shoo-in this season.
Well, he's having a phenomenal statistical season. Of course, he just came off the suspension. I just don't know where the competition's going to come from because he's running away with the points lead. And I just got to believe that, unless he gets hurt, McDavid is probably the guy that you're going to have to pay an awful lot of attention to, and rightfully so. I just happen to think he's just a great player. Are they a complete team? No. I'll tell you what, the NHL playoffs are going to be wild, because you got Edmonton's really good, and Winnipeg, nobody's paying any attention to what the Winnipeg Jets are doing. And, I mean, they are so strong in their division. And the LA Kings are really scary because they got a lot of guys who are snipers who can score goals. Trade deadline might influence. That trade deadline's coming up in a month. There may be some deals that are going to change some things on the Eastern Seaboard. But, yeah, I think Edmonton is really, really good, and Winnipeg is just a slap shot behind them and being a complete team. And Winnipeg's got the goaltender, and I'm a huge Hellebuck fan. So we'll just see where it goes. Playoffs will be good, but there are going to be some changes at trade deadline. Some involve trades with contracts, and somebody's going to rent a vet that's going to help them in the playoff push down the road.
We're to get to some of the Winnipeg guys on this thing because you're already getting crap for the Maple Leaf sweatshirt. So, okay, let's move on. We'll go here to Gordon. Hey, Lee and John, watching and listening from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Thanks for the great sports updates.
Well, thank you. We do sports talk the way it should be done. We do try to cover an awful lot. Yeah, we throw a lot of stuff on the wall, but the philosophy, and John and I have talked about this when I did Sports Talk Radio, which I thought was pretty damn good. I just decided I was going to cover everything on the waterfront. Not everybody's an MLB fan. Not everybody is an NFL fan. There's NBA fans. There's hockey fans. There's auto racing fans. There's PGA fans. There's hockey fans. So if you touch hot stories, you keep everybody interested and everybody comes back to you. And that's what we're trying to do with this podcast, rather than sit here and talk about the same story every Monday and every Thursday, because I don't think that's real good.
Yeah. That would be trouble. But it's just, I'll tell you this, just personally for me, this is just so fun to do this with you because I used to listen to you for years on the radio, on drive time, 690, 1090. And I just felt like I had a relationship with you in my own kind of weird way. And now suddenly we're doing this together. I'm like, oh my God, this is like a reincarnation.
To quote the great Peter Seidler, the first time I met him when he became the owner of the Padres, and I did not know him, he knew me First thing out of his mouth, I've listened to your sports talk show forever. I couldn't wait to get on the 405 and made sure I was in traffic by 4 o'clock so I could listen to this best 15 minutes in sports talk radio with Hacksaw's headlines. That was I love getting on. I had to get on the 405 at 4 o'clock. So I'd be in gridlock and I'd be stopped and I'd be able to hear everything you're saying.
No, that, I mean, literally when you did that, that was a groundbreaking kind of thing. Yep. I mean, no one was doing that on the radio, at least here locally in San Diego. No one.
That's right. What, do you want me to apologize for being bleeping brilliant?
It was just, I mean, it's amazing. You know, you're just like a fire hose of sports content.
Next one. Thank you for the compliment.
Another one from Cal. And he goes, also, John, how can you wear a Cal Poly hat when you're a UCSD alum?
That's a good question. But John's had a bad week.
No, but this is where my daughter went to school. So, you know, I pulled the hat out of the closet. Okay, let's go here to comment. He goes, WST raid, and I see a laughs hoodie. Oh, the shame, Hacksaw. Let Hustler send you a Jets or WST hoodie.
I've got Winnipeg Jets gear. We start the playoffs. I promise I will wear my Winnipeg Jets gear that I traded for Hustler. So yeah, I owe you one on that, and we will get it done. You have to understand. I'm involved in a mixed marriage. I'm involved with a Montreal Canadiens fan. Do you know how hard it is in my house? Maple Leaf fan, Canadiens fan. It's really hard. Now, here's standard joke. This might offend some people, but tough crap. How many Montreal Canadian fans does it take to change a light bulb?
Tell me.
The one person who's on the ladder that unscrews it and puts a new bulb in, and the other 10 people standing around the ladder talking about how the old great bulb was so great for so many years. That's Montreal Canadian fans talking about the Bleu Blanc Rouge way back in the day and Firewagon Hockey and Jean Beliveau and Guy Lafleur and all those people. So just understand how hard it is in my house because you got a Maple Leaf fan, Montreal Canadian fan.
Mixed marriage. That's great. Okay, let's go here to Bruce. He goes, Duval.
He's talking about the situation with Liam Cohen.
Yeah.
Give us the background give us 30 seconds about the Jaguars coach who interviewed the Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, who interviewed in Jacksonville, pulled his name out, was about to sign an extension to stay. Jacksonville fired the general manager, called him back and said, would you come back and talk to us? He said, I'll take the job after they got rid of Trent Baalke. So go ahead and talk about what he said at the press conference.
Well, yeah, it was like he rolled in and he had this weak ass Duval, like, oh, Duval. And he kind of had this weird, I mean, it's like a classic photo or video clip. It's going to be a meme, you know, online. And it was weak. And
he mispronounced it intentionally.
No, he just said it soft, you know? And so that was, you got a head coach coming in, man, a leader of men. And you want to hit the floor running, and it just kind of came off weak.
So he didn't rank right up there with Pete Carroll's sales pitch.
No, not at all. But and by the way, 2-3 years ago, we were all singing the praises of Doug Peterson. I mean, it's amazing that it didn't really work out for him. And do you think that Trevor Lawrence is a legit NFL quarterback?
He got so beat up last year, it's hard to say. But, prior to that, he had driven them to the playoffs. But they were a wreck. They had so many guys hurt. They had no defense at all. And then they lost one of their wide receivers, and one of the running backs got hurt. And then Lawrence had 2 different injuries and finally had surgery. And he was trying to play through the injury. So you get a bright guy like Cohen coming in with X's and O's. That's his middle name on his resume. And this will be fun to see how quickly they can get him up and running. And they're going to get everybody who was hurt on defense back. Guarantee you they won't give up 390 yards per game next season because all the injured defensive guys are coming off IR. So I think they'll bounce back.
Remember Mark Brunell?
Yeah,
he was a Jaguars quarterback. Didn't they get to the Super Bowl, or they got close?
Yeah, with Tom Coughlin.
Yeah,
so he was the first quarterback. He was a really good player. He wasn't a superstar, but he made plays with his arm, with his legs. He's an assistant coach with the New York Jets, or was. He actually interviewed about going into Jacksonville maybe to be an assistant, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, let's keep going. And the Dodger fans are also piling in. I'm going to kind of put 3 of them up on a row so you can hit them. One is from Javi. He goes, Dodgers broke the Padres time to go back to their true selves. And then Gary says Dodger payroll is actually $375 million. And then Javier says Hacksaw's a low-key Dodger fan.
A little bit of truth because I'm a Dave Roberts fan. And I like all the teams. Do you think they get offended if I wore the Dodger hoodie again? Is that piling on in San Diego or piling on in San Diego?
It was mostly Dodger fans freaking out when they saw you wearing that.
They broke the Padres' heart in the playoffs. This sounds cruel to say. It's tough to hit major league pitching. It really is. And it's tough to hit major league pitching when both your hands are around your throat and you go 24 straight innings without scoring a run. And the Padres had tried to soft sell this. I'm sorry. They freaked out. They choked. They went 24 straight innings in the playoffs without scoring a run at the most important time of the year. Totally out of character. So this is not the Padre players. Dodgers dominated. Dodgers hit the jackpot. Dodgers to spend all their money. So be it. And by the way, in terms of the reference to the salary, if you take payroll and then you have to add the benefits, that's why the total's 375, because that involves everything that is used in the compilation of the luxury tax. But their base payroll is 318, and that may go up a little bit further with the signing of Kirby Yates. There's another acquisition coming, but it's going to push them close. I would think close to 390 million, which will be the luxury tax figure they have to pay.
See, I'll admit it gets confusing.
Sure.
Because you got the actual salaries.
Then you got the deferred that comes out of that number.
Right. And then you have the part that's front end loaded by the bonus.
And then you got the insurance coverage, which then goes into the formula for the actual total tax figure. I mean, but then also if you have a backloaded contract, that might be good from a cash flow perspective, but it recalculates the AAV, right? Yeah, average salary.
So every time we talk about the salary cap and the luxury tax, I always wonder which one of those we're talking about.
Well, the higher figure is actually the total cap figure that they're going to be charged for. The lower figure is the base payroll of what they're paying out.
Yeah. And so the benefits like medical, dental, 401k, I don't know if they provide all that.
Yeah, they do. That goes into, that's why that number 318 payroll right now is actually 375 for salary cap purposes.
Okay.
New math, not for me.
I mean, by the way, those boards that you put together about the Dodgers, all the numbers and that pitching staff is unfriggin' believable. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. By the way, did you get that in your newspaper? Yeah. Did you get that on your talk radio? Yeah. You got it on this podcast.
Yeah. Here, I just want to put it back up on the board here. I mean, the one we're talking about is this one. First of all, talking about Dodgers as public enemy number one, which I think was a funny headline. But there you got all the dollar figures. And yeah, the guys on the online are saying that the payroll should be around 375. But then it was the second one that was just mind blowing is this Dodgers pitching list. I mean,
every one of those guys has had success at the major league level, and they're all going to the Dodgers camp in 2 weeks. There's 23 pitchers there.
It's absurd. I mean, and I'm not bagging on the Dodgers. I mean, they made the right decisions. They got all these guys, good for them. But that is just unbelievable. I mean, I don't know how it's possible that they could pull all this off. And there isn't as much competitive pressure from other teams.
Yeah. Number two market in the country.
Yeah, but I think, they have that special, like their TV deal gives them revenues that other teams don't get. Sure. They got all the Japanese, corporate sponsors coming in. So they're playing chess and we're playing checkers here with the Padres.
That concurs. Next one.
Okay, next one. Here we go, rolling down the list. And this is from Hector. He goes, Lee, the Dodgers will not be booed out of any road stadium. Dodger fans take over everywhere the team goes, even when the Padres try to bar them from buying tickets.
Oh my goodness, Dodger fan is just feeling it right now.
Feeling it.
Oh, absolutely amazing. They are going to be public enemy number one. They're going to get booed. They're going to booed like the Yankees used to get booed, evil empire and all that razzmatazz. So it was interesting at the Sasaki press conference, Andrew Friedman said, what we're doing is good for us and what we're doing is good for baseball. And the reporter said, what do you mean it's good for baseball? He said, we're drawing 4 million. We'll lead the world in attendance. That's who we are. And when we come into your stadium to play, we're going to sell out your stadium and you're going to make a lot of money off of the fact you're facing us. There's a little bit of semblance of truth in that because there will be Dodger fans coming to San Diego, but also they're going to get booed. It's going to be a bit of a culture shift because they'll be public enemy number one. Now they're going to go 162-0. No, I don't think so. But I think they're going to be public enemy number one.
Well, yeah. I mean, people are going to want to boo them because everything they've done. But you know, I just remember growing up as a Giants fan in the 1970s, and that was a rough go. You know, and the Dodgers were loaded. They had that famous infield with Ron Cey and Steve Garvey and Bill Russell and Davey Lopes. And I mean, they had a great run back then. And it was like, oh, the clean cut Dodgers and their beautiful white uniforms playing in the sunshine in Chavez Ravine, while I was miserable at Candlestick Park, you know, freezing my butt off in July with hot dog wrappers flying everywhere, all the debris and nobody in the stadium. And I was like, Dodgers, blah, blah, blah. Right. Okay. Then I come down to San Diego to go to college. And now I get part of the Padres, you know, little brother syndrome fight with the Dodgers. And now the Padres, I think, have grown up, and they just get smacked right back down again. And here we go. We're living in Dodger world.
Well, they did have their 15 minutes of fame, didn't they? And then they won 24 straight innings and didn't score.
That is still just mind-boggling.
Sure it is.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
I mean, I sat at a bar near my cottage in the Adirondacks, and it was cold as hell outside because it was almost November. I sat in a biker's bar every night, and I watched the Padre-Dodger playoff series. And I was surrounded by drunk Yankee and Mets fans and biker bar guys and all that.
Yeah, you fit right in.
Yeah, thank you. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. This team, you know, had grown together and won all those games and gave us a summer full of excitement and so much expectation and so much. What a letdown. And now it's been followed by what I think has just been a terrible letdown this winter. So we'll see where it goes. Dodger fan, feel good about your team. You want to pile on? Go ahead, pile on. We'll see what baseball season brings.
Okay, let's jump over here to Emmanuel. He says, hey, I'm glad you guys are back. Who will the Pac-12 get for its 8th football member?
They're not making any progress. They just don't have any idea. I was told that they have reopened talks with St. Mary's about coming in as another basketball school, which makes a lot of sense. But the NCAA just seems to be steadfast that you got to have 8 football playing members. And who are they going to take? Twain? Nah. UNLV? I guess that sounds sexy to a degree, but that doesn't move the needle. Does any of that really help you in your media rights package? You know, Memphis is already committed to stay where they are in the AAC. I just don't know who is else out there. If I were the Pac-12, I'd go to the NCAA and say, we got 7 football. We've added Gonzaga. We're going to add St. Mary's. Give us a waiver and let's do it. And then we'll see a year from now. Give us a 1-year extension or a 2-year extension, because there probably will be some fallout and will be some more changes along the way. Sorry, I don't include Northern Illinois leaving the Mid-American Conference and going to the Mountain West. That's not what I'm referencing, but there will be some other fallout. I wish the hell they had a chance to get BYU, because BYU coming here would cap it off and make it a pretty complete conference. But I'm sorry, with apologies, I talked to you about this. With apologies, I can't be excited. Pac-12 looks no different than Mountain West 2.0 to me. It looks like the old WAC. No?
Yeah, it does. You know, and by the way, Aztec Mike tells me all the time that Sacramento State is the team that might be coming to the FBS, you know, with the bowl series. So, you know, is Sacramento State Mountain West material? Are they Pac-12 material? I don't know, but in the end, it doesn't matter, because the SEC and the Big Ten are going to run everything.
The only saving grace would be if somebody wakes up at Cal and Stanford and said, this was stupid to go to the Atlantic Coast Conference. And if they come back, they'd be admitted immediately. Then they would change the scope of West Coast football. And maybe that would give them 2 more schools to satisfy the NCAA requirement. That might be the only wild card out there, because Stanford and Cal are not getting anywhere near the full media share by having gone to Atlantic Coast Conference. So why the hell would you do that? Just come back. Play in a new look Pac-12 with Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, Stanford, the group that came from the Mountain West. But I'm sorry, if it doesn't have Oregon or Washington or SC or UCLA attached, it's not the same to me.
It's not the same, but everything's changing.
Yeah.
You know, the whole, you know, monopoly board is shifting around right now, and it's tilting further in the direction of some teams and not others.
That's where we are. Emmanuel, stay tuned because we'll just keep on trying to give you the information, but keep an eye on the St. Mary's. That might be the first domino that falls next.
Okay, let's go here to the O-siders. NFC and AFC championships games going for it on 4th down instead of field goals and going for 2-point conversions. Why are coaches going against the history of the NFL and not getting guaranteed points? Shaking my head.
Because the offenses are so dynamic in the NFL right now that, yeah, you can get 3s, but you're going to give up 7s because the other guy's got firepower to go down and score. And that's been the DNA of those head coaches all season long. So why would they change it? I'm kind of tired of the tush push thing that sometimes did not work for Buffalo, always seems to work in Philadelphia. But why would you keep running that specific play with Josh Allen? I mean, and John and I have talked about these coaches study so much video, and you probably heard it alluded to that Kansas City and Spagnuolo moved their defensive front because all the video they studied showed Josh Allen always went tush push quarterback sneak off the left side of the center. So they moved Chris Jones down, and he's as big as the state of Rhode Island. And that's why they stopped him on 4th down multiple times. And so these coaches will find a way to defend you out of the good things that you do. But the DNA of these guys, go for it on 4th down because I got offense, can get it, and we'll keep the drive going. I'd rather have 7 than I would 3 because the other guy's going to score 7. Does that make sense?
It does, but it's exciting, because I remember when I was a little kid, I was like, how come they never really go for it on 4th down? They only do it when it's desperation time. But I remember there was like a high school coach somewhere that he went for it on 4th down every time.
Somebody in college, it might have been St. John's in Minnesota, St. Thomas in Minnesota.
Something like that.
Yeah. They haven't kicked the football.
Yeah, they wouldn't punt, and they would never kick field goals either. They would always go for the touchdown, always go for 4th down, and they ended up winning a ton, so they thought that from a, game theory perspective that it's actually better to do that. But the NFL is so damn conservative and so much
not anymore.
Well, because they follow the next guy, right? It's a copycat thing, and for the longest time, it was Mr. Conservative, 3 yards on a cloud of dust.
This wave of young coaches, they do think outside the box a lot. All right, thanks for the comment, Oceanside. Go ahead, John.
Okay, we're talking about some of the big contracts with the Dodgers. Dave Johnson says, hey, let me take you back to 1990. Jose Canseco signed a record $23 million 5-year contract. That was absolutely crazy at the time.
I remember crazy at the time. Do you remember when Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale with the early LA Dodgers held out a camp and wanted $100,000 each from Walter O'Malley? And Walter O'Malley said it would bankrupt the club. The Dodgers in Los Angeles, drawing $4 million. Yeah. And those probably would bankrupt the club to have to pay Koufax and Drysdale. Catfish Hunter, I think his first contract might have been $200,000 after Charlie Finley violated his contract. He became, and the arbitrator made him a free agent, and he wound up going to the Yankees. His first contract was $200,000. They said, "Holy cow, $200,000 for a pitcher!" Now, and everybody's making $40 million a year. Everybody except talk show hosts.
Yeah, maybe even Pete Alonso might get that. So, I like the fact that players are making bank because they deserve it. They're the best of the best. They're the elite, and there's so much money, so much fan interest, so much media coverage, or all these guys, that they deserve a fair portion of this. So I'm happy for them.
Does that include all the crapola with the NBA players?
Well, okay, that's a whole other can of worms right there. The NBA is just weird. It's amazing how, the average NBA guy seems to make more than in any other sport, right?
Yeah, the fringe guy's making $20 million a year sitting at the end of the bench, never getting the chance to play.
That's insane. I mean, I'm surprised by that.
You got Jimmy Butler running down the hallway. I can't find no joy in Miami. He's making $49 million a year with a $52 million option, but he can't find any joy, and he keeps getting suspended.
Yeah, no joy. So it's some Marie Kondo stuff going on. Okay, let's keep on rolling here. There's a bunch of other guys that want to get in on this, and I got some guys down here. Okay, Surf City Bill's getting cocky. He's a Dodger fan. 158-4.
Just feel free to pile on. That's okay. Hey. Has anybody told you how many pitchers the Dodgers have? Hacksaw did. I mean, is that the most amazing thing you've ever seen? How many established pitchers they have who've won games are going to Camelback Ranch? So 158-4. Feel free. Everybody's entitled to an opinion.
Yeah, they'll probably lose the 4 to the Miami Marlins or something crazy, Okay, let's go here to Joe. And he says, hey, I heard UNLV was back on the table for Pac-12 membership.
it's a conversation point. It just continues to go on. At this point in time, what do they bring to the table, though? I mean, they've had 2 flashy years in football. Now they lost their coach. Basketball, I mean, Tark the Shark and NCAA championships. My God, that was a bunch of turnovers ago. There's not quite the same program, but maybe because it's the Vegas market and all these franchises are going to Vegas and they're going to move the playoffs to Vegas and the championship game to Vegas, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe it's got something to do with it, that it's going to become a neon light place to go have a team in. I just don't know that Vegas, much like anybody else, brings very much to the table in terms of whatever the Pac-12 should look like. The thing that I just said off the top of my head that I think carries more clout is let's let this thing go another year. Petition the NCAA, give us a waiver, let us start with 7. Because if Cal and Stanford wake up and say, this is crazy for us to be in the ACC, because they got their ass kicked this year in the ACC, and they're not getting the full share financially, just bring them back home. So now
you contracts, right? I mean, they're stuck for a while.
You can always negotiate stuff out. The fact they're not getting a full share.
Yeah, but they're going to probably have to pay money to exit. And so then is the Pac-12 going to have to go into its vault? And, the money that they, that they ended up getting from Cal and Stanford to have to be used to bail them out of the ACC.
Anything's possible. Yeah. I would sit and just wait and see what happens with Cal Stanford. I don't think SC's coming back. I don't think UCLA's coming back, despite the financial trauma that the Bruins have right now. But I think Cal Stanford would have some legitimacy. But, if the Cardinal and the Golden Bear, the Beavers and the Cougars of Washington State, that's going to be your 4 anchors. Is that really a great conference? And granted, Boise's great. San Diego State basketball's great. But that's not the Pac-12 that we all grew up and respected and loved.
Yeah, but for a while, the Pac-12 was like the little brother of the Big 5 or the Power 5. So, the glory days of the Pac-12 to me are like the 60s and the 70s. Right. Not so much maybe a little bit of the Pete Carroll era, but
Pete Carroll era and what they did in Oregon. I think that's unbelievably impressive. What Don James did at Washington, what DeBoer did just before he vacated Washington. I mean, there were some really great programs, a lot of really good players, but I just don't like the makeup. I'm sorry. I hate to be dumping all over San Diego State prospects, but this looks like Mountain West 2 or the old WAC to me. There's nothing sexy about what they're going. Just because you put the Pac-12 logo up on top doesn't mean it's great.
Well, I mean, what are they going to do? It's not like you can invent, a new university or like move, North Carolina over into Nevada or something. It is what it is. So, all these other conferences, like I remember, what was it? Was it the Big 12 when they one of those new Florida schools? Was it UCF or USF? I mean, where did those universities come from? They weren't even on my radar.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they popped up, and all these conferences are shifting with new names, but we don't have as many universities on the west side of the Mississippi.
Concur. Well, Texas, sure we do. We got all the Texas schools are big time, and Oklahoma has been big time.
Right.
Oklahoma State's had good years, but the conference realignment is so geographically screwed up.
Well, geographically doesn't mean anything anymore.
Exactly.
Except for the players that got to go on the airplane flights all the time.
Fill the slot. West Virginia in the Big 12. That makes a hell of a lot of sense, doesn't it? Central Florida in the Big 12.
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
I think they maybe just need to reimagine the whole thing in a way that doesn't just make it lopsided. It's all SEC Big 10. Is there a way we can reimagine this and still have mid-majors to be relevant in the conversation, and mid-majors have at least a shot to prove they're legit?
That's another topic for another day. Otherwise, we'll be here till Saturday doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. Let's do a couple more before we get to social media. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, Joe's rolling in there. Let's see. Oh, here's a comment here from Live Resin. Hey, big up the team sports news approvals. Everything you guys do. So much love from San Diego. Knowing this confidence is soaring through the air. Big up team sports.
You are right. We are bleeping brilliant. Thank you. It's all John's fault. John's the one that invented this podcast. I just do the content and the graphics, and he's the one that delivers it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's switch over to some social media. And
do we have to?
We'll just get a couple in here, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. Okay, yeah, here. Okay, with more Dodger stuff, and this is from Jonathan. It's a little bit long, but Dodgers rock. I get that LA is big and we get a lot of TV revenue, but our organization is doing everything right. We're hiring good players who also kind and work well as a team. We're making smart business decisions. We're making smart management decisions, and we have incredibly passionate fans who will show up to the games and buy merch. We outsold Taylor Swift in tickets purchased in 2024. We have team history. We have great branding. We have a great social media team and a great fan culture.
I agree with virtually all that. You also had Frank McCourt. So let's not be running up and down the hallway, the thing saying everything was great for Dodger baseball forever and ever and ever. Yeah, it wasn't. We had great owners. I mean, Ray Kroc and what Joan Kroc did, they were very special people in our community. What Peter Seidler's legacy is just absolutely phenomenal. Now, granted, we've had bad owners too, and we've had bad situations. And it's kind of a bad situation right now that doesn't look good. It's the optic of this is not good. And they got a baseball problem here now with the roster and the contracts AJ Preller has given out. Dodger Stadium, it's a different set of rules just because of the revenue streams and the greatness and the region and the number 2 market in the country, et cetera. But you also had Frank McCourt. Keep that in mind too.
Yeah, that was a while ago, though, right? But Mookie Betts is a class dude.
Sure.
So is Freddie Freeman.
Yep.
We can go down the list. Like, just every guy on there is a good character guy. And then it kind of makes you wonder, that had to be part of their strategy in picking these guys. I mean, because they wanted that kind of those sort of glue guys that are friendly and appealing and kind of motivate the rest of the club.
Yeah, that was one of the tenets when they made the Adrian Gonzalez trade. Who he was as a person, what he represented, both sides of the border, was one of the reasons they made that mega Boston Red Sox transaction.
That was huge.
But they have the resources to execute that type of thing. So I would, part of me would say this thing is cyclical. You will go through stretches where your organization's really good, really successful, right people lead in, and you go through bad stretches where bad player contracts or bad injuries or mistakes on people. I think that happens everywhere in sports. But right now, arrow is really pointed up with the Dodgers and 158-4. I guess that's what they're shooting for.
Now, the ownership group for the Dodgers, I hear people talk about Guggenheim.
Yes.
And is that the primary ownership?
Yeah, they're lead investors. They're the I don't know, $66 billion in investments and things like that. They're just phenomenal. But they got great baseball people. Andrew Friedman's a great baseball person. Stan Kasten, who is the head of the hierarchy of the baseball side, that man's got great baseball credentials dating all the way back to Atlanta. And obviously Friedman was very successful. Think about this. Andrew Friedman came from Tampa where they had no money, and he succeeded in terms of player development. He goes to Dodger Stadium. He's got more money than God. It's absolutely amazing where he was, what he had experienced, and what he's become.
Yeah, unbelievable. Is Magic Johnson still an owner too?
Well, he's minority owner. He talks a lot about this and that and my team. Please, that's name recognition for his investment. That's all.
Okay, well, they can have Mario Lopez, by the way. He was like one of their Uber fans. Okay, let's kind of go down here. Let's talk about Chargers, and this is from Kev Rock, and he says, to be fair, it's kind of a salute to that season. I know it's hard for others from big market cities to understand, but the season really was a magical time for the city of San Diego. When they flew home from Pittsburgh that night, they arrived, I wanted to say 9 to 10 at night. Over 70,000 fans went to the stadium to greet him. So many that they decided to open the stadium for impromptu pep rally at one of the wildest scenes ever.
Rain like hell, and it was so much fun. And again, this is for those who aren't aware, this is the 30th anniversary of the Chargers winning the biggest game in the franchise history, going to Pittsburgh and beating the Steelers and Bill Cowher, and then earning the trip to go to the Super Bowl, and obviously playing in the Super Bowl and getting blown out by the record-setting Steve Young performance for the San Francisco 49ers. But it's an accomplishment that sadly has been forgotten in our community, which really kind of stuns me. And maybe that's just a fallout and an afterthought because of what Spanos did to 55 years of loyalty, and people have never forgotten him. I don't see Charger gear anywhere. And I have Charger gear that I saved. I've worn it a couple times. I wore it once here. I kind of got hammered, which is okay. I don't care. It's my gear. I'm going to wear what I want to wear. And I continue to support Justin Herbert. But I think there's such ill will directed at the first family of football, the Spanos family, for what the hell they did to our community. That's why there's nobody that wears Charger gear at all. And it's sad commentary that we've forgotten how great that year was. And that, for the older citizens, that's a memory you never, ever forget. I'll never forget it. I mean, it goes right up there with all the other unique things I did over the course of my broadcast career. But that's right there at the top.
You know who always reminds us of the San Diego Chargers? Is the damn Dodger fans, just rubbing it in. You guys can't even keep an NFL team. You can't keep an NBA team. You're about to lose your Major League Baseball team.
Well, wait a minute, though. You had the Rams, did you not? The Raiders were there, right? They left.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you chirping about?
Yeah, USC sort of left, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on here. We'll go to another comment about the Padres here. And this is from Tim Blakeney. Oh, it's a good friend of mine here, Tim. He says, 100% correct, Lee. You are the only local sports media guy who is specifically pointing this out. It's not about ownership being cheap. The whole situation is a result of Preller's short-sighted, now untradeable mega contracts for players past their prime, declining performance, injuries, etc., who the Padres are on the hook for the next 5 to 10 seasons. Bogarts, Darvish, Musgrove, Cronenworth, and even Manny. I'll hold off on passing judgment on the Tatis contract for now. Plus, Preller drained the farm system's depth for 1 to 2 year rentals.
It's a big problem. It's the methodology that he was allowed to operate with by Peter Seidler. And I firmly believe in my heart that Peter thought he would have cancer relapse. And then he developed the immune system problem, which actually led to his sudden death. But I think that's why Peter pushed all his chips to the table. He loved baseball. He's part of the O'Malley family. He married in to the O'Malley family. Then he loved the Padres, loved our community. He did a lot of stuff in our community that people have paid no attention to. I've told the story to John. I've been downtown at 2:00 in the afternoon at that area, and I go into CVS to get something. And here's Peter Seidler shopping in CVS like he's just some guy. It's not Peter Seidler, the richest man in the world who owns the Padres, just some guy. And I ran into him outside of CVS. He said, "Come on up to my office. Let's have a cup of coffee and talk." So this is just a great, great gentleman. And what he did on behalf of the homeless, what he did on behalf of abused wives and kids, just a phenomenal individual. And we've been blessed, in San Diego, we have met some very, very unique people. I would say he and Tony Gwynn are possibly two of the greatest individuals I've ever met, which kind of makes it sad what we see going on now at the upper echelons of that executive suite. And geez, please don't tell me it's a money grab or a power grab, because I'm sure somewhere at this hour, Peter looking down doesn't like what he's seeing, and he didn't plan it this way.
Well, it's exactly what it is. It's a money grab, power grab. It's a struggle. This happens a lot of times with the states, and it's sad. And we're all going through it. And meanwhile, our big brother is ruling the world up in LA. But you go back to those contracts. Okay. Obviously, the Bogarts one looks really bad. The Cronenworth one seemed like he sort of handed it out to Cronenworth because Cronenworth's a good guy.
And he had 2 good years, but now he's dipped.
Okay. The Machado deal, when we first got him in 2018 or 19, that deal made a lot of sense. He got the extension that was at that 5-year opt-out, so it kind of made sense to do that. The Tatis deal, I think, looks like a good deal now. The Darvish deal, I think, was worth it, but maybe were we living in a fantasy of all this free money that was flowing into the system, and maybe that Darvish deal was too generous.
No, it goes to age 42.
Yeah.
And we're talking about somebody that's broken down a couple times.
Exactly.
And then he gave Musgrove the great contract. And Joe is such a physical force pitcher, it all caught up to him. And they're on a hook for a whole pile of money, and you quite never know how a guy's coming back from elbow surgery.
But when Musgrove got the deal, when Darvish got the deal, at the time of the deal, I thought, okay, that deal makes sense, okay, financially for them and in their career. It's not completely crazy.
The only thing I had exception to was the length of
the length. Yeah, the length was long, but Musgrove's deal is only a 5-year deal. What was Darvish's? I don't know. Was it a 3 or 4 year extension?
No, Jake was 7 though.
Jake was 7. That was a lot, but it just seemed like those deals at the time they were made sense. But maybe the Padres were just spending money they didn't have, and now here again we had these unrealistic expectations, and now we're all like little kids and lost their best friend.
Well, we lost a friend, Peter Seidler.
Yeah.
We really did. And unfortunately, to me, because of the contract extensions, the length of contracts, and coupled with the fact Preller's traded the farm system away 3 times now, this window to be a World Series team is right here. And we just went through the first year in which they choked away the chance to get to the World Series. So the question is, can they get to the World Series this coming season? But then you got the struggles at top, you got the struggles with the payroll, and their inability to move any of the contracts. How the hell are they going to put quality players on the field that are comparable to what the Dodgers have, what the Yankees have? I just don't know. I just don't see it.
Call Steve Ballmer. He's got some extra money laying around in between the cushions of the couch.
Yeah, you think so? So, hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast.